One of the most popular questions I always get asked is, should I have a free trial or freemium solution? And a lot of times I hear responses to this question that are so baseless and really just focused on someone's personal experiences with their free trial or freemium model. And so I wanted to create this micro lesson to really just highlight what you really need to think about when it comes to deciding whether a free trial or freemium model is best for your business. So when we look at both models, they essentially both help your customers evaluate your product. And why this is different than, let's say, not having a free trial or freemium model is because you get to really focus on the evaluation stage of the customer journey, whereas everyone else really just focuses on the purchase phase. And so that's one key differentiator, and why a lot of people like to think that, okay, they should have a free trial or freemium offer, because when someone's deciding, hey, maybe this solution would be a good fit for me, they can at least try out your product and see for themselves. So why should you use one model over the other? Now I'm going to start with free trial argument, because most people here probably will fit into the free trial box. And that's because free trial is very, very versatile. And so when we look at just the definition itself, well, it's a customer acquisition model that gives you part of the product or a complete product to people in your funnel free of charge. The only catch is it's a limited amount of time. And so a lot of people don't know this, but there is two types of free trials you need to think about. I like to phrase it as the one you like, the one you don't like. And so there's the opt-in, opt-out. What an opt-in free trial is, essentially, it's the one you most often do. And so that's the one where you just sign up with your email. You don't have to sign up with a credit card or pay. But you, at the end of the free trial, are required to opt in to upgrade if you do like this solution. And then there's the opt-out. So this is a paywall that companies put in order to make people pay for the product before they start to use it. And so for some of these trials, it's most often a very reduced price. So like $1 or $7, and then what the plan would normally be, used for. And so in that case, a lot of the business owners who implement the strategy, they think that, okay, we're giving them a discount, but there, as you will see, are some gnarly repercussions of using the opt-out free trials. So I'm going to just start with the opt-in free trial perks, because you probably already like this option, and there's quite a few other things that you might not know about it. So the first thing that's really good about the opt-in is that there's little to no friction. And that does mean more signups and more money in the bank. So you also add a trust factor when it comes to your marketing, because by reducing the friction, only requiring someone's email, you're really saying like, hey, if you think whatever, like our marketing copy is off, or we're promising too much, see for yourself. And this really comes down to making sure that the perceived value and experienced value of your product is in sync. And so this is what a lot of people are looking for when they sign up. So it adds trust that you don't hide it. And you avoid the accidental free trial to paid conversions, which means less refunds and angry customers who are like, oh, I forgot about that credit card I signed up for the free trial, and I want my money back for the month or 2 months before I even realized what was going on. And so, yes, you do want to avoid these people, because, yeah, it's very annoying if you've had it happen to yourself as well. And so the free trials that don't require credit cards. So opt-in free trials show a higher end-to-end conversion percentage compared to their counterparts. If you don't believe me, go to Tatango's report. I think he's got really good information on it. And all I'm trying to say is the opt-in free trials produce more money in the bank than the opt-outs. All right, so the golden rule of free trials. Don't do opt-out free trials, please. And if you still need more convincing, well, I got a couple more reasons. And besides hurting your brands, associating your product with the low cost, even people who do like the $1 free trial, there's a really interesting article about that. You can just go into the presentation and click those links. And number 2, if you really like to take a data-driven approach to deciding for yourself whether an opt-in or opt-out model is best for your business, go there, click here, and you will see or be able to break it down for yourself to see what the conversion rate might be for both models and what you can expect. All right, so if you're still not convinced, there's a venture capitalist who's dealt with a ton of stubborn folks. And there's another really good checklist and model for you to really just see whether opt-in or opt-out will work best for your business. And so where does freemium fit into this mix? All right, let's get into it. It's freemium. It is a customer acquisition model that this definition is basically the exact same as the free trial. And that means that there's no time limit. So you're given part of the product or a full product. Oh, most cases, definitely not full product. Would not recommend that. But yes, there's just no time limit. And so that's the main difference. And Rob Walling, I love this quote, put it together really, really well. And by saying that, freemium is literally like a samurai sword. If you don't know how to use it, you can really cut your arm off and hurt your business. But there is quite a few perks. And that is why a lot of founders, as well as marketers, like to dance with the idea of freemium because it is very powerful. And the first reason why a lot of people want to implement a freemium system is because it's a powerful acquisition strategy. And why wouldn't it be? You're giving away part of your product for free. And if you have a really amazing product and you're giving away a ton of value, why wouldn't people want to start using it in their day-to-day work and see for themselves how it can help them do something? And so that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people love freemium. And you can also test upgrade levers at scale. And so typically most freemium products have like a free tier, which has limited capabilities, maybe limited users or a number of different levers. But you can definitely experiment what levers people are really willing to pay for. And you often have the volume and number of people to really get almost to the statistical significant level of saying, okay, we know what people are willing to pay for. Whereas if you are using free trials, it's a little harder to get to that volume and get to that statistical significance. And number 3, the last reason why freemium is really, really cool is because you can turn free users into a consistent referral source. So even the tire kickers that are using a product, they're like, oh, this is just an amazing product. I'm never going to pay for it because I just get everything I need to do out of it. Well, you can still use those people to help promote your product to other people. And whether that's unlocking new features, to get more value out of it, you can still get some value out of those people. Whereas I guess on the flip side of the coin, with free trial users who don't upgrade, there's often a little less things you can do with them. So this all sounds pretty darn amazing, I bet. But freemium usually only works when you're up against a few factors. And so do not do freemium unless you have a large addressable market. And like, for instance, people who listen to music, that's a large addressable market that will work Spotify has proven that. And low cost to each new user. So this is imperative. You cannot afford to have an expensive onboarding process if you're giving away the product for free. It has to almost by nature be very, very low touch, if any touch at all. And you got to have the systems in place to support that. And number three, why what you need for your freemium strategy is you got to make it easy for people to start with your product and get value out of it. Okay, so now one thing that I really want to do is be real with you when it comes to freemium. Now, most times freemium models, they appear like these amazing models, but they just don't work when it comes to B2B SaaS companies for the most part, or it's very, very rare that they will work. And so after all, giving away your product is really sometimes not the best robust go-to-market strategy, depending on your market size. I don't want you to, I have nothing against charities, but you're not building a charity here. You're building a for-profit business, as Lincoln Murphy would say. Now, if you still think that freemium might work for your business, I've got quite a few questions for you to go through with either just yourself or your team to really make you rethink the idea of freemium. And I'm not trying to really push you against ever doing freemium because there are some really good scenarios which you will see later in this presentation, but this will make you think it through a little bit more so you at least know what you're getting into. And so now, when do you choose a free trial or a freemium model? And I made a fancy chart because I like fancy charts. And so right here we have the price and complexity on both sides. And this chart's super powerful because let's just start off with the avoid self-service model part. So if we look here, you can see that, okay, the complexity is very high as well as the price is high. Okay, so that is a particular circumstance where it doesn't really make too much sense for us to have a self-service model. And you know why? Well, it's going to be really expensive to onboard the people onto the product. And people, if we even did have a free trial or freemium model, they would probably get lost, never experience that aha moment in the product, and they'd most likely just try and find a competitor or someone who can walk them through the process a lot easier. So that's, generally speaking, a really bad place to have a self-service model. And if we go to where freemium thrives, since we're just on that topic, you can see the bottom left where the price is really low, complexity is also low. So freemium thrives in this environment because, the barrier to entry for a lot of people is not that high. And if the complexity isn't that high either, that means people can get used to using it very quickly and start upgrading on their own. And yeah, it just seems to work really, really well. But if your price is high and it's still not very complex, that means that there's a lot of options. And that's usually where a lot of people get confused because they say, okay, I could have a free trial, could still potentially have a freemium model, could have a demo. And that's often where you see a lot of hybrid strategies that work really well. Something like that would fit in that box would be maybe something like HubSpot. HubSpot would be a good example of a company that's using the freemium model as well as free trials within the freemium model as well as demos. And so they're actually utilizing all of these in one strategy. And so that's something I definitely want you to think about. And then when it comes down to where is a bad spot to have a self-service model, but you could still make it work, that would be on the spectrum of like your complexity is very, very high. So bottom right, and the price is also low. So that's a dangerous spot to be in. And on one hand, you definitely would prefer to have a self-service model versus, let's say, the traditional sales model because it's a lot more cost effective for you to have low touch with each user. But if your users can't get the full value of the product, that's really not the best place to be. And maybe you have to raise your prices or try something else. So if you look at this, it's really good at reframing the way that you can think about your price complexity and what model might work best for you. And so there's added effects there, fun stuff. And hopefully I think this is starting to make some sense for you, but I like to make things complicated. I apologize in advance. Now, just because your product is easy to use to you and inexpensive does not mean you have to have freemium. Now, why is this true? Well, okay. First off, complexity of a product is totally contextual. If we give the same accounting software, let's say Wave software, to Sam, the man, the concrete guy, and then Miss Bitcoin, well, Miss Bitcoin finds it very easy to use, but Sam, the concrete guy, he doesn't know how to log into his account. Now, nothing against Sam, the concrete guy, but we need to know your audience and constantly do user tests with them. And even if you have the easiest to use product, but your audience just has never used tech products before, you're going to find that mismatch. And so one thing you might even want to consider is doing drunk testing or just user testing in general. AppQs has come up with this pretty brilliant idea of walking customers through this process, which I'd recommend checking out. It's quite fun. But in this case, it makes sense to not have a free trial or freemium offer if it's really, really difficult for your users to use. And so when should you not consider a free trial or freemium model? Well, there's three big issues here. So when you should not consider a free trial or freemium model, first off is if your entire company follows a top-down marketing approach. So let's say I am working at a big tech firm and I'm only targeting the VPs, C-level, and good old Mark Zuck. So the people at the top, these are the people who are not the doers in the organization. They're the people setting the strategy. And so for these people, for me to target them, one of the things that I'm going to find that's a little bit interesting if, let's say, I go forward with a freemium or free trial approach is these people will most likely not be the ones who are technically capable of using the product. They will understand how it might be able to be used. But typically, if you're going after these people, a more traditional sales-led approach works better if you're specifically targeting these. Whereas if you look at a product like Slack, well, Slack does sell to enterprises really, really well, but they do it in a bottom-up marketing approach. So they create a product that's insanely useful, easy to use, and then it spreads like a virus throughout companies. And so then once it gets to a certain threshold of users who are using it within a company, well, then they say, okay, maybe we'll reach out to the decision makers to eventually make the sale. But it starts off at the bottom. And so if you're using free trials or freemium models, they typically do work best with the bottom-up marketing approach. And so also do not do freemium or free trials if your product is complex and your target audience requires lots of hand-holding. That most likely will not work out unless you have the price point to cushion the blow whenever you onboard new users or even charge for onboarding if that is your product's that complex. And lastly, the one that a lot of people don't get is if your product is very expensive and might actually max out company credit cards each month, like that's also another kind of no-brainer where it's like freemium free trials will not work for this. You're selling at a smaller price point for the most part when it comes to these models. And so you need to avoid free trials and freemium models when, and that's in the completely wrong place, but at the very top where the complexity is high and the price is also just as high. And wow, there we go. That's the recap, the conclusion. So whenever we think about this, there are two free trials. There's the opt-in, opt-out. Opt-in is when you are just asking for someone's email and they still have to opt in after the trial to upgrade and start using the product. Whereas opt-out, as it sounds, They have to sign up with the credit card at the beginning of the free trial and then at the end. If they want to stop using the service, then as the name implies, they have to opt out. And so freemium and free trials, the main difference is really just the time difference when it comes to the definitions. But as you can probably see, the go-to-market strategies are very, very different. And so freemium is this like sexy juggernaut of a model, but you have to be very, very careful, because if you aren't, it can really backfire. And if you don't have the resources to cushion the blow to your business, it can end up really hurting your business. And so I wanted to end it on that note, give you an unbiased opinion on both just the free trials, freemium models. And I hope this has helped you understand which one might work best for your business. And if you have any other questions, definitely feel free to shoot them in the Product-Led SaaS Growth Facebook group. Have a great day.